Now let's begin. Wesley Barber stood in his kitchen, watching the morning sun filter through the window above the sink. At 52, he had the kind of weathered face that spoke of a life lived fully, lines etched around his eyes from years of hard decisions, a jaw that had clenched through countless difficult moments. His hands, wrapped around a coffee mug, were calloused but steady. These were hands that had built an empire from nothing, that had held his dying wife in a hospital room 12 years ago, that had raised 2 children alone. The house was quiet except for the soft footsteps of his son Tom coming down the stairs. At 12, the boy had his mother's sharp eyes and Wesley's quiet intensity. He was small for his age, but there was something old in the way he observed the world, something that made adults uncomfortable when they caught him watching them too carefully. "Dad, Patricia's here," Tom said, his voice neutral in that way that told Wesley everything he needed to know about his son's feelings. Through the window, Wesley watched his daughter's BMW pull into the driveway. His driveway, the one he'd paid to have paved 15 years ago when Patricia was still in high school. She stepped out, 28 years old and beautiful in the way her mother had been, but there was a hardness in her expression now that made Wesley's chest ache. Behind her, a Porsche Cayenne pulled in, blocking the street entrance. Armando Moreno emerged from the driver's seat like he was stepping onto a red carpet. 35, handsome in an overly groomed way, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Everything about him screamed new money and desperate validation. Wesley had disliked him from the moment Patricia brought him home 6 months ago, but he'd bitten his tongue. His daughter was an adult, and he'd promised himself he wouldn't be the kind of father who couldn't let go. That promise was getting harder to keep. "Morning, sweetheart," Wesley said as Patricia entered through the side door without knocking. Something else that was new. "Dad." Patricia's greeting was clipped. She glanced around the kitchen with an expression Wesley couldn't quite read. "We need to talk about the house." Tom had positioned himself at the kitchen table, homework spread in front of him, but Wesley knew his son wasn't reading. He was listening, cataloging, analyzing. The boy missed nothing. "What about it?" Wesley kept his voice level, friendly even. Armando swaggered in behind Patricia, his cologne overwhelming the smell of coffee. He didn't greet Wesley, just ran his finger along the counter and examined it like he was checking for dust. "The thing is," Patricia said, her voice taking on a rehearsed quality that made Wesley's stomach knot. "Armando and I have been talking. This house is way too big for just you and Tom. It doesn't make sense financially. I built this house," Wesley said quietly. "Paid it off 10 years ago." "Right, but property values in this neighborhood have skyrocketed." Armando spoke for the first time, his voice smooth, condescending. "You're sitting on a gold mine and doing nothing with it. Patricia tells me you barely have any retirement savings." Wesley felt Tom tense across the room. He kept his own expression neutral, even as anger flickered in his gut. "My finances are my business, Armando." "Actually," Patricia jumped in, and Wesley saw her hand slip into her husband's. "They're kind of our business too. I'm your daughter. I care about your future. And honestly, Dad, you've never been great with money. You could sell this place, split the proceeds with me. It's only fair. Mom would have wanted me to have something. And you and Tom could move into something smaller, more manageable." There it was. The real conversation. Wesley had built Barber Industries from a single construction crew into a multi-million-dollar development company over 20 years. He'd sold it after his wife Sarah died, wanting to focus on raising his kids. He'd made enough to live comfortably, to ensure his children's futures were secure. He'd put Patricia through an expensive private college, paid for her dream wedding just 4 months ago. And now she wanted his house. "Your mother and I built this home together," Wesley said, his voice harder now. "Every room has her touch. Tom grew up here. This isn't about money, Patricia. Everything's about money, old man." Armando's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something ugly underneath. "You had your time playing big shot. Patricia deserves better than waiting around for you to die to get what's rightfully hers." "Armando." Patricia's rebuke was weak, performative. She didn't meet Wesley's eyes. Tom stood up from the table, his chair scraping loud in the sudden tension. "You should leave," he said to Armando, his child's voice eerily calm. Armando laughed, actually laughed. "What are you, 10? Sit down, kid. Adults are talking." 12, Tom corrected. "And this is my home. You should leave." Something dangerous flashed across Armando's face. Wesley moved, putting himself between his son and his son-in-law. But before he could speak, Patricia grabbed Armando's arm. "Let's go," she said. "We'll talk about this later, Dad. Just think about what we said, okay? Think about what's best for everyone." After they left, Wesley stood at the window, watching the Porsche pull away. His reflection stared back at him. A man who'd spent 12 years being gentle, being present, being the father his children needed after losing their mother. He'd let the hard edges soften, let the ruthless businessman recede. Tom appeared beside him, so quiet Wesley hadn't heard him approach. "He's going to keep pushing," Tom said. "I know. He thinks you're weak." Wesley looked down at his son, at those ancient eyes in a young face. "Maybe I am. You're not." Tom's voice held absolute certainty. "You're just being good." But he doesn't understand that. He thinks kindness is weakness. Wesley pulled his son into a hug, feeling the fragile bones, the small shoulders that somehow carried such weight. "When did you get so wise? Mom used to say I was born old." Tom's voice was muffled against Wesley's chest. "Dad, if he keeps coming around, if he tries to hurt you or take our home, you don't have to be good anymore. Not to him." The words hung in the air long after Tom went back upstairs to his room. Wesley returned to the window, to his cold coffee, to the quiet house that held every memory of the woman he'd loved, the life they'd built together. He'd tried to be a good man, a good father. He'd buried the part of himself that knew how to destroy competitors, how to read people's weaknesses and exploit them, how to win at any cost. That man had died with Sarah, or so he'd thought. But standing in his kitchen, tasting the bitter residue of his daughter's betrayal, feeling the phantom grip of Armando's arrogance settling around his home like a strangling vine, Wesley Barber felt something old and cold stirring in his chest. He wasn't weak. He'd just been sleeping. And Tom was right about one thing. He didn't have to be good anymore. Not to people who saw his kindness as an invitation to take everything he had left. The weeks that followed fell into an uncomfortable pattern. Armando and Patricia showed up every few days, always unannounced, always with new reasons why Wesley should sell the house. Armando's visits grew bolder. He'd walk through rooms like he was appraising them, make comments about outdated fixtures, suggest renovations that would bring the value up before listing. Wesley watched his daughter transform. Patricia had always been headstrong, a little selfish perhaps, but there had been warmth there once. Now she spoke in Armando's phrases, echoed his contempt, looked at her childhood home like it was an investment opportunity rather than the place where her mother had sung her to sleep, where she'd celebrated every birthday, where Sarah had taken her last breath in the master bedroom upstairs. Tom navigated it all with his characteristic silence. He'd disappear when they arrived, retreat to his room or the backyard, but Wesley knew he was watching. The boy had inherited Sarah's intuition, her ability to see through people's masks. And he'd inherited something of Wesley too, a patience that most children lacked, a willingness to wait for the right moment. On a Tuesday afternoon 3 weeks after that first kitchen conversation, Wesley was in his study when he heard Patricia's voice echoing through the house. He hadn't heard her come in. Apparently, she'd kept her key. The study would make a great home office, Armando was saying as they appeared in the doorway. Original hardwood, built-in shelves. This room alone adds 50 grand to the asking price. Wesley closed the ledger he'd been reviewing. Old habits died hard, and he still kept meticulous records of his investments and expenses. "Patricia, we've talked about calling first. It's still my house, Dad." She said it without thinking, probably repeating something Armando had told her. Then she caught herself, had the grace to look uncomfortable. "I mean, it's where I grew up. I don't need to call." "Actually, you do." Wesley stood, moving around the desk to face them directly. He was tall, 6'2", and even at 52, he maintained the solid build of a man who'd worked with his hands before working with his mind. Armando was shorter, softer, the kind of man who'd never done physical labor in his life. Wesley saw him register the height difference, saw the compensating puff of his chest. "Listen, Wesley." Armando always used his first name, never called him Mr. Barber, another small disrespect. "We're trying to help you here, but my patience isn't infinite. Patricia has lawyers drawing up papers. You've got until the end of the month to agree to sell, or we're going to have to explore other options." "Other options?" Wesley's voice was dangerously quiet. "Dad's not well," Patricia said suddenly, and Wesley's blood went cold. He's been forgetful, confused. We're worried about his ability to make sound decisions. I'm standing right here, Patricia. There's nothing wrong with my mind. That's what people with declining cognition always say. Armando smiled, showing too many teeth. We're just looking out for you. And for Tom. A 12-year-old needs stability, not a father who can't remember to pay the bills. I've never missed a payment on anything in my life. Yet. Armando pulled out his phone, started typing. Things change. People get old. Patricia and I, we're thinking about Tom's best interests. Maybe he'd be better off living with us, somewhere stable. The threat was clear. Wesley felt rage building in his chest, hot and dangerous, but he forced it down. Men like Armando wanted a reaction. They fed on other people's anger, used it to justify their own behavior. Get out of my house. See? Aggressive behavior, another sign of. I said get out. Wesley moved forward, and something in his body language made Armando step back despite himself. This is my home. I'm not selling it. And if you ever threaten to take my son again, we're going to have a very different conversation. Patricia grabbed Armando's arm. We're going. Dad, please, just think about what we said. We're family. We're trying to help. After they left, Wesley sat in his study for a long time, staring at nothing. The ledger on his desk was open to a page of numbers, investments he'd made over the years. He'd been careful, strategic. He and Tom would be fine financially. But money wasn't what this was about. Armando wanted to break him. Wanted to take his home, his dignity, maybe even his son. And Patricia, God, Patricia was letting him. Maybe even encouraging him. Wesley thought about Sarah, about the promise he'd made to her in that hospital room. Take care of our babies. Don't let them forget how to be good. He'd kept that promise. He'd raised Patricia to be strong, independent. He'd been patient with her rebellion, her mistakes. He'd welcomed Armando into their lives despite his misgivings, because Patricia seemed happy. But what did you do when your child chose cruelty? When they allied with someone who wanted to destroy you? Dad, Tom stood in the doorway, still in his school uniform. Wesley hadn't heard him come home. Hey, buddy. How was school? Fine. Tom came into the room, sat in the leather chair across from Wesley's desk, Sarah's chair, the one she'd curl up in while Wesley worked, reading her mystery novels. They were here again. Yeah. He threatened to take me. It wasn't a question. Wesley leaned forward. That will never happen. I promise you, Tom. Whatever it takes, I will not let them take you from this house. I know. Tom was quiet for a moment. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Before Mom died, before you sold the company, you were different. I was too young to remember much, but I've heard stories. Uncle Chester says you were the toughest negotiator in the state, that people were scared to go up against you in business. Chester Bennett had been Wesley's partner, his right hand at Barber Industries. They'd lost touch over the years after Wesley sold his shares, but Chester sent a card every Christmas, always with the same message. Call if you ever need anything. Chester talks too much, Wesley said softly. Maybe. But was he right? Were you tougher back then? Wesley studied his son's face, looking for judgment and finding only curiosity. I was what I needed to be. The construction business is brutal. If you're not willing to fight, you get eaten alive. But that's not who I wanted to be anymore. Not after your mom. I'm not asking you to be mean, Tom interrupted. I'm asking if you can still be strong. If you need to be. Because Armando, Dad, he's not going to stop. And Patricia's getting worse. I heard them talking in the driveway. They're planning something. Planning what? I don't know. But Armando was saying something about documentation and a timeline. And Patricia said she'd do whatever it takes. Tom's voice cracked slightly, showing his age. I don't want to leave our house. I don't want you to get hurt. Wesley came around the desk, knelt in front of his son. Hey, look at me. I've dealt with men a lot tougher than Armando Moreno. He's just a bully in an expensive suit. And bullies are predictable. So what are you going to do? It was a fair question. Wesley thought about it, about the chess game unfolding in his home. Armando was making moves, trying to corner him. But he was also making mistakes, getting arrogant, showing his hand too early. I'm going to remind some people that I used to be someone worth respecting, Wesley said finally. And I'm going to make some calls. Just in case. Tom nodded, satisfied. Can I help? You already are. Just by being you, by keeping your eyes open. Wesley ruffled his son's hair. And by reminding me that some things are worth fighting for. That night, after Tom was asleep, Wesley sat in his study with a glass of whiskey and an old address book. He'd told himself when he sold Barber Industries that he was done with that world, done with the power games and the political maneuvering. He'd wanted to be just a dad, just a man raising his kids in the home he'd built with his wife. But the world didn't let you walk away clean. And men like Armando didn't respect gentle fathers. They saw them as prey. Wesley flipped through names, numbers, connections he'd cultivated over 20 years of building an empire. Contractors who owed him favors. City councilmen who'd accepted his campaign donations. Lawyers who'd helped him navigate complex deals. Business rivals who'd become grudging friends after he'd crushed them and then offered a hand up. He'd been powerful once. People had returned his calls immediately, courted his approval, feared his disapproval. That capital didn't expire just because he'd chosen to step back. His finger stopped on a name, Chester Bennett. The number was 12 years old, but Chester was the kind of man who never changed his phone number. Wesley picked up his cell, hesitated. Once he made this call, once he reached back into that world, there'd be no pretending he was just a quiet single father anymore. He'd be inviting the fight, acknowledging that this wasn't something that could be solved with patience and good intentions. But then he thought about Armando's hands on his daughter, that calculating look in Patricia's eyes, the threat against Tom. He thought about Sarah's voice, something she'd said once when Patricia was throwing a tantrum as a toddler. Sometimes love means setting boundaries. Sometimes it means not being their friend when they need you to be their parent. Wesley dialed. Chester answered on the second ring. Well, I'll be damned. Wesley Barber. I was starting to think you'd died. Not yet. How are you, Chester? Rich and bored. You know me. What's it been, 5 years? 6. Too long. Please tell me you're calling because you finally came to your senses and want back in the game. I've got 3 projects that need someone with your eye for. I need information on someone, Wesley said quietly. And maybe some advice. The line went quiet. Then who? My son-in-law, Armando Moreno. He married Patricia 4 months ago. Moreno. Chester was typing in the background. Real estate developer, right? Flashy type, younger than Patricia, loves posting his lifestyle online. That's him. Okay, I'm looking at his company website now. Moreno Development Group. Claims to have 15 active properties. Portfolio worth $40 million. Very slick marketing. Chester paused. You want to tell me why you're asking about your daughter's husband? Wesley told him. Not everything, but enough. The pressure to sell the house. The threats. The way Patricia had changed. When he finished, Chester was quiet for a long moment. Wes, I'm going to say something, and you're not going to like it. Say it. That website I'm looking at. The property photos, the big claims. I know this game. I know how to spot the smoke and mirrors. Your son-in-law is running on fumes and borrowed money. I'd bet my company on it. Wesley's hand tightened on the glass. You're sure? Give me until tomorrow. I've got people who can dig deeper. But that feeling I got, looking at his operation, I've seen it before. He's a pyramid scheme in designer shoes. Chester's voice turned hard. And if I'm right, that means he married your daughter for a reason. You said the house is paid off, in your name? Yes. Worth? Neighborhood comps are around $2 million. Chester whistled. There's your answer. He needs capital, fast. He can't get legitimate loans because he's over-leveraged. But if he can get his hands on that house, if he can force a sale, he gets $2 million in liquid assets. Exactly. Or he refinances it, pulls out equity, leaves you and Tom holding a mortgage on a house you owned free and clear. Chester's typing grew more aggressive. I'll make some calls tonight. By tomorrow, I'll know everything about Armando Moreno's finances that he wishes stayed buried. And Wes. Yeah, it's good to hear from you. I've missed that edge in your voice. The one that scared the hell out of everyone at contract negotiations. After they hung up, Wesley sat in the darkness of his study, turning the glass in his hands. The whiskey caught the moonlight, amber and gold. He'd tried to be good. He'd tried to be the father Sarah wanted for their children, the man who solved problems with patience and understanding. But there came a point where goodness became complicity, where turning the other cheek just invited more blows. Armando had made a mistake. He'd mistaken Wesley's gentleness for weakness, his restraint for inability. He'd looked at a quiet man in a paid-off house and seen an easy mark. What he didn't see was the foundation beneath. 20 years of ruthless business instinct, a network of powerful allies, and the kind of strategic thinking that had built an empire from nothing. Wesley Barber had been asleep, but sleep was over. Tomorrow, he'd start asking the right questions, pulling the right threads. And when Armando's house of cards started to collapse, and it would collapse, he'd understand too late that some men weren't weak. They just chose their battles carefully. And when they chose to fight, they didn't lose. The call from Chester came at 7 a.m., waking Wesley from a restless sleep. He grabbed the phone before it could ring twice, not wanting to wake Tom. "Tell me," he said, voice rough with sleep. "You were right to be suspicious." Chester sounded wide awake, energized even. "Your son-in-law is drowning, Wes. He's got 5 properties actively in development, but only 3 have actual construction happening. The other 2 are empty lots with permits that are about to expire. He owes contractors over $2 million, has 3 different banks calling loans, and he's being sued by investors in Florida for fraud." Wesley sat up, fully alert now. "Fraud? Yeah. Pre-sold condos that don't exist. Took deposits, spent the money on his lifestyle instead of on construction. They're moving to pierce the corporate veil, go after his personal assets." Chester paused. "Which means he has none. Everything's leveraged, Wes. The Porsche is leased. The fancy clothes are on credit cards he's maxing out. Even the condo he and Patricia are living in is a month behind on rent. Patricia doesn't know. I'd bet my last dollar she doesn't. Guys like Moreno, they're good at the con. All flash, all confidence, all lies." Chester's voice softened. "I'm sorry, man. I know this is your daughter we're talking about. She made her choice." The words hurt to say, but they were true. How long does he have before it all falls apart? Without an infusion of cash? Maybe 2 months. 3 if he's really good at juggling. But eventually, the investors are going to get a judgment. The contractors are going to file liens. The banks are going to foreclose. He spent years building a house of cards, and it's all coming down. Unless he gets my house. Exactly. $2 million in equity? That buys him time. Pays off the most pressing debts, keeps the lawsuits at bay, lets him refinance and start the whole game over. He probably thinks he's smart, marrying into money. Wesley thought about Patricia, beautiful and naive, probably thinking she'd found a successful businessman who could give her the glamorous life she'd always wanted. Had Armando researched her before they met? Had he known about Wesley, about the house, about the inheritance Patricia thought she deserved? What about the competency play? Wesley asked. Patricia mentioned getting lawyers, claiming I'm not fit to make decisions. Chester snorted. That's a long, messy legal battle. Adult guardianship requires serious proof, medical documentation, psychiatric evaluations. He might try it, but it would take months and cost a fortune he doesn't have. More likely, it's just intimidation. Trying to scare you into selling before you look too close at where the money's going. Thanks, Chester. I owe you. No, you don't. This is what friends do. Chester hesitated. But Wes, if you want me to make some calls, put some pressure on his business, make his life harder, say the word. I know people who know people. We could have his permits yanked, his loans called early, his investors pushing harder. It was tempting. Wesley could feel the old instincts rising, the ruthless businessman who would have crushed Armando without a second thought. But that approach had costs. It would hurt Patricia too, and despite everything, she was still his daughter. Not yet, Wesley said. Let me think about this. But keep digging. I want to know everything about him. Where he goes, who he talks to, what he's planning next. You got it. Oh, and Wes, whatever you decide to do, it's good to have you back. After breakfast, Wesley drove Tom to school. His son was quiet, staring out the window at the suburban streets rolling past. Chester called. Wesley said, Armando's in trouble. Financial trouble. Tom turned to look at him. How bad? Bad enough that he needs our house to stay afloat. That's what this is all about. Not family, not Patricia's inheritance. Just money. Are you going to tell her? It was the question Wesley had been wrestling with all morning. I don't know if she'd believe me. She's so deep in with him now. And if she does believe me, if she realizes he married her for the house. He trailed off, imagining Patricia's face, the devastation. She chose him over you, Tom said quietly. She laughed while he threatened you. Maybe she deserves to know the truth, even if it hurts. Wesley glanced at his son, surprised by the coldness in his voice. Tom, she's still your sister. She stopped acting like my sister when she married him. Tom's jaw was set, stubborn. I heard what they said about taking me away from you. I heard her agree to it. Family doesn't do that. Wesley pulled into the school drop-off lane, put the car in park. Hey, look at me. He waited until Tom met his eyes. I know you're angry. I am too. But Patricia is. She's made some bad choices, but she's not evil. She's confused, manipulated. When this is over, when Armando is gone, she's going to need us. Can you try to remember that? Tom was quiet for a long moment. Then, reluctantly, I'll try. But I'm not promising anything. After Tom disappeared into the school building, Wesley sat in the car, watching kids stream past. 12-year-olds, Tom's peers, laughing and shoving each other, worried about tests and homework and middle school drama. Tom had lost that innocence somehow. Maybe it was losing Sarah so young. Maybe it was being observant enough to see the ugliness adults tried to hide. Or maybe it was just that some kids were born old, like Tom had said. Born understanding that the world wasn't fair, that family could hurt you, that sometimes you had to fight just to protect what was yours. Wesley's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is your last warning. Sign the papers by Friday, or we file for guardianship. Don't make this ugly. Hey, Armando had gotten his personal cell number. Probably from Patricia. The escalation was accelerating, the deadline approaching. Friday was 3 days away. Wesley stared at the message, at the threat barely concealed in professional language. Then he forwarded it to Chester with a simple note. Exhibit A. Chester's response came immediately. Oh, he's dumb. Keep every text. I'll have my lawyer contact you within the hour. Wesley pocketed the phone and pulled out of the school parking lot. He had 3 days before Armando's artificial deadline. 3 days to decide how to handle this. The old Wesley would have already destroyed him, leaked the fraud case to local media, called in favors to have his permits pulled, maybe even arranged for some of those angry contractors to show up at his job sites asking uncomfortable questions. But that Wesley had retired. That Wesley had put his wife in the ground and promised to be better, softer, more present for his children. The question was, could you be a good man and still protect yourself? Could you be gentle and still fight back when someone tried to take everything you loved? Wesley thought about Tom's voice. You don't have to be good anymore. Not to him. Maybe his son was right. Maybe goodness had limits. Maybe there was a point where refusing to fight wasn't noble. It was just giving evil permission to win. His phone rang again. Chester, your lawyer's name is Marlene Irvin. Best family law attorney in the state. I'm sending you her number now. She'll get that guardianship threat killed before it starts. Thanks. And Wes, I've been thinking, you want to really end this? You want Armando gone for good. Chester's voice dropped. I can make that happen. Legally. Completely above board. But you'd have to be willing to play hardball. I'm listening. His investors in Florida, the ones suing him? They're looking for a local connection, someone who can help them track his assets, freeze his accounts before he moves everything offshore. If someone were to provide testimony, documentation, maybe some insights into his current schemes. Chester let the implication hang. You want me to help them destroy him. I want you to help them get justice. He defrauded people, Wes. Took their money and spent it on bottle service and luxury cars. Those investors, they're retired couples, small business owners who thought they were getting in on a good deal. They deserve to get their money back. And if helping them happens to also protect your house and your son, well, that's just efficient resource management. Wesley was quiet, thinking it through. If he testified against Armando, provided information about his current situation, it would accelerate the Florida case. The judgment would come faster, the asset freeze would be immediate. Armando would be financially destroyed before he could touch the house. But it would also devastate Patricia. She'd lose her husband, her lifestyle, the fairy tale she thought she was living. I need to think about it, Wesley said. Don't think too long. Friday's coming fast, and guys like Moreno, they don't play fair when they're desperate. Chester paused. But I'll tell you something else I found out this morning. Moreno's been taking Patricia to look at houses. Expensive houses, way outside their budget. Telling her they're going to upgrade, have kids, build a family. Using money from my house. Exactly. He's not just trying to steal from you, Wes. He's using your daughter to do it. Letting her think this is about her future, her family, her dreams. While really, he just needs her signature on some papers so he can cash out and disappear before the lawsuits catch up. That decided it. Wesley felt something cold and final settle in his chest. Armando wasn't just a con man. He was a predator. And if Wesley did nothing, Tom would learn that you could be victimized in your own home. That bad men could take what they wanted if you were too gentle to stop them. Set up the meeting with the Florida investors, Wesley said. And Marlene Irvin. I want to talk to both by end of day. Now that's the Wesley Barber I remember. Chester sounded satisfied. One more thing. You might want to install some security cameras around your property, just in case Armando decides to get creative before Friday. You think he'd try something physical? I think desperate men do desperate things. And you've got 12 years of being a civilian, Wes. Marino's young, probably thinks he could take you in a fight. Don't give him the chance to try. After they hung up, Wesley drove home slowly, his mind working through scenarios and contingencies. The businessman in him, dormant for so long, was waking up fully now. He could see the board, see the pieces, see 3 moves ahead. Armando had made too many mistakes. He'd underestimated his opponent, shown his hand too early, backed himself into a corner. Now all Wesley had to do was wait for him to make the final, desperate mistake. And when he did, Wesley would be ready. The house was quiet when he arrived home. Too quiet. Wesley's instincts, honed from years of high-stakes negotiations, prickled. He paused in the foyer, listening. Footsteps upstairs. In his bedroom, Wesley moved quickly but quietly, taking the stairs 2 at a time. His bedroom door was open. Patricia stood in the center of the room, looking at her mother's jewelry box on the dresser. Patricia? What are you doing here? She jumped, guilty. Dad, I knocked. You weren't home, so you let yourself in. Again. Wesley moved into the room, positioning himself between his daughter and the jewelry box. What do you want? I wanted to look at Mom's things. Is that a crime? It is when you're here without permission, going through private belongings. Wesley's voice was harder than he intended, but he was tired of being understanding, tired of making excuses for her. Patricia's face flushed. Mom was my mother too. I have a right to her things. You have a right to memories. You have a right to visit, with permission. You don't have a right to walk into my house and rifle through her belongings whenever you want. Our house, Patricia corrected. Mom would have wanted me to have this house. She told me once that everything she had was for me and Tom, that we were her legacy. Wesley felt something crack in his chest. She said that when you were 10 years old. She meant her love, her values, the lessons she taught you. She didn't mean you should take my home while I'm still living in it. You're so dramatic. Patricia rolled her eyes, but there was something brittle in her voice. We're not trying to take anything. We're trying to help you. But you're too proud to see it. Help me by breaking into my house. Help me by threatening to have me declared incompetent. Help me by trying to take Tom away. Wesley's voice rose despite his best efforts. That's not help, Patricia. That's elder abuse. You're 52, not 80. Don't be ridiculous. Patricia grabbed her purse from where she'd dropped it on the bed. I came here to talk, to try one more time to make you see sense. But you're impossible. You've always been impossible. She pushed past him, headed for the door, but Wesley caught her arm. Gently, but firmly. Patricia, stop. Just for 1 second. Stop and listen to me. She froze, wouldn't look at him. I know about Armando's debts, Wesley said quietly. I know about the lawsuits, the failed projects, the fraud case. I know he's broke, that everything you think you're building with him is built on lies. Patricia yanked her arm free, turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with tears, but her voice was hard. You're a liar. You're jealous because I found someone successful, someone who can give me the life you never could. Armando is brilliant. He's building an empire. He's building a house of cards. And when it falls, it's going to crush you too. You don't know anything. Patricia's voice cracked. You sold your company and gave up. You've been hiding in this house for 12 years, playing Mr. Mom, pretending you're happy being nobody. But Armando is somebody. People respect him. People know his name. People know his name because he owes them money. Patricia slapped him. The crack echoed in the bedroom, sharp and final. For a moment, they both stood frozen, shocked. Then Patricia's face crumpled. I didn't mean. Get out. Wesley's voice was very quiet, very controlled. His cheeks stung, but it was nothing compared to the pain in his chest. Get out of my house. Don't come back unless I invite you. Dad, I said get out. Patricia fled. Wesley heard her footsteps on the stairs, the front door slamming. Then silence. He stood in his bedroom, in the space he'd shared with Sarah, surrounded by her things, her jewelry box, her photos on the nightstand, her favorite painting on the wall. The room still smelled faintly of her perfume, though it had been 12 years. Or maybe that was just memory, just his mind refusing to let her go. I'm sorry, he whispered to the empty room. I'm sorry I couldn't protect her from this. From him. From herself. But Sarah was gone, and Patricia had made her choice. Now all Wesley could do was protect Tom, protect their home, and hope that when it was over, when Armando's lies were exposed, Patricia would find her way back to them. If she wanted to. If she could. Friday arrived with gray skies and cold rain, the kind of October weather that made Wesley think about winter coming, about the long dark months ahead. He'd spent the last 2 days in meetings with Marlene Irvin, who'd prepared a preemptive legal response to any guardianship filing, with the Florida investor's attorney, who'd been very interested in Wesley's testimony, with Chester, who'd organized everything with his usual efficiency. Now Wesley sat at his kitchen table with Tom, watching the clock tick toward 4 p.m., Armando's deadline. Neither of them had heard from Patricia since the slap, but Chester's contacts had reported that Armando was acting erratic, making phone calls, getting visibly agitated at job sites. A man on the edge. Dangerous. He's going to come here, Tom said. He'd stayed home from school, sensing something was about to break. Wesley hadn't argued. Sometimes a son needed to see his father stand up to bullies. Probably. Are you scared? Wesley looked at his son, at those ancient eyes that saw too much. No. Are you? No. Tom's voice was firm. I believe in you. The simple faith in those words nearly undid Wesley. He reached across the table, grabbed Tom's hand. Whatever happens today, whatever you see, remember that I'm doing this to protect us. To protect this home your mother loved. Okay. At 4:15, Wesley's phone buzzed. A text from Patricia, we're coming over. Please, just listen. Don't make this worse. Wesley didn't respond. At 4:30, the Porsche pulled into the driveway. Wesley watched from the window as Armando emerged, dressed in his usual expensive suit, but looking disheveled, his tie loose, his hair messed. Patricia got out more slowly, her face pale. They came to the door. Wesley opened it before they could knock. Wesley. Armando tried for his usual confidence, but it came out shaky. We need to talk. My answer is no. It was no Monday. It's no today. It'll be no next week. I'm not selling my house. You don't understand. Armando started forward, but Wesley stood his ground, blocking the door. I understand perfectly. You're broke. You owe millions. You married my daughter thinking you could pressure me into selling so you could use the money to pay off your debts. Wesley's voice was calm, factual. I know about the Florida lawsuit. I know about the contractors you haven't paid. I know about the permits that are expiring. I know everything, Armando. Armando's face went white. You how? I used to run a multi-million-dollar company. Did you really think I wouldn't do my homework? Did you really think you could con me? Dad, please. Patricia pushed past Armando, her eyes desperate. Just listen. We need this. Armando made some mistakes, but he can fix them if he gets my house. If he refinances it, pulls out the equity, uses money your mother and I spent 20 years earning. Wesley shook his head. No. You selfish bastard. Armando's mask finally dropped completely, revealing the ugly desperation beneath. You're sitting on $2 million while I'm drowning. You're retired, you don't need this much space, you're just being spiteful. I'm being smart. Something you've never been. Armando moved fast, shoving past Wesley into the house. Fine. We'll do this the hard way. Patricia, call your lawyer. We're filing today. Actually, you're not. Marlene Irvin appeared in the hallway, having come in through the back door as planned. She was 50, sharp-eyed, wearing a suit that screamed competence. I'm Mr. Barber's attorney. If you file any guardianship paperwork, we'll bury you in counter motions and slander lawsuits so fast you'll be disbarred before you see the inside of a courtroom. Who the hell are you? I'm the person who's going to explain the law to you very clearly. You have no legal right to this house. You have no claim on Mr. Barber's assets. And if you continue to harass him, I'll have a restraining order filed by end of day. Armando's eyes darted between them, calculation warring with panic. Then he turned to Patricia. Tell your father that you want this house. It's your inheritance. He can't keep it from you. Patricia looked at Wesley, and for a moment, he saw his daughter again, confused, scared, and over her head. Dad, we really need. No. Wesley's voice was gentle but implacable. I'm sorry, Patricia. But no. Something in Armando snapped. He grabbed Wesley's collar, pulled him close, his face inches away. Listen to me, old man. This is my wife's house now. not yours. And if you don't sign those papers. The slap came hard across Wesley's face, the same cheek Patricia had hit 2 days ago. Wesley's head snapped to the side, pain blooming. He heard Tom gasp from the kitchen doorway, heard Marlene shout something, heard Patricia scream, "Armando, no." But Wesley didn't move, didn't fight back, just stood there, tasting blood from his split lip, feeling the sting, the humiliation, and watching Armando realize what he'd just done. "Mr. Moreno," Marlene said coldly, her phone already out, "you just committed assault and battery in front of 3 witnesses. I'm calling the police right now." "Wait." Patricia grabbed Armando's arm. "Please, don't. He didn't mean it. He's just stressed. Please, Dad, don't press charges. We'll go. We'll leave. Just, please." Wesley looked at his daughter, at the desperation in her eyes. She was still defending him, still choosing him. "Go," Wesley said quietly. "Both of you. And don't come back." They left. Armando stumbling, Patricia crying, both of them getting into the Porsche and speeding away. Marlene wanted to call the police anyway, but Wesley stopped her. "Not yet. There's a better way." After Marlene left, Wesley returned to the kitchen. Tom was still standing in the doorway, his face white, his small hands clenched into fists. "Dad, I'm okay, buddy. He hit you." Tom's voice shook. "He hit you," and Patricia laughed. She didn't laugh. She screamed at him. She laughed. Tom's voice was flat now, eerily calm. "When he grabbed you, before he hit you. I saw her." She smiled, like it was funny. Wesley wanted to argue, to defend his daughter, but he'd been focused on Armando. He hadn't seen Patricia's face. And Tom never lied. "Go to your room," Wesley said. "I need to make some calls. Let me help." "Tom." "No." His son walked to the kitchen table, picked up Wesley's phone, held it out. "He hurt you. He tried to take our home. Patricia helped him. They need to pay." Wesley saw something ancient and cold in his son's eyes, something that scared him because it mirrored what he was feeling. But Tom was 12. He was a child. He shouldn't have to carry this kind of anger. "I've got this," Wesley said gently. "Trust me. By tomorrow, Armando won't be able to hurt us anymore." Tom studied his father's face for a long moment. Then, without a word, he turned and walked upstairs. Wesley heard his bedroom door close. Alone in the kitchen, Wesley pulled out his phone, hesitated for just a moment, then dialed. Chester answered immediately. "Talk to me. He assaulted me, grabbed me, slapped me, threatened me. We have witnesses. Please tell me Marlene was there. She was beautiful, absolutely beautiful." Chester sounded energized. "Okay, here's what we do. We don't file police charges, not yet. That would be quick and easy, but it wouldn't solve the real problem. Instead, we leverage it. I've got the Florida attorneys ready to move. With this new incident, we can get an emergency asset freeze. We can argue he's violent, unstable, likely to flee with whatever money he can grab. How fast? I've got a judge who owes me a favor. We could have papers filed by Monday, freeze his accounts by Tuesday." "But Wes..." Chester hesitated. "This is going to get ugly. When his world starts collapsing, he's going to blame you. He might come after you again, and next time it might be worse than a slap." Wesley touched his split lip, tasted blood. "Let him try. That's not. I mean, legally, you should probably get a restraining order. For you and Tom." "No restraining order. Not yet." Wesley was thinking, planning. "I want him to have enough rope to hang himself. Can your people watch him? Make sure I know if he's coming." "Already done. I've had a guy on him since Wednesday. Former cop, very discreet." Chester was quiet for a moment. "You've got a plan, don't you? Something beyond just the legal approach." "Maybe. Want to share?" "Not yet. But Chester, thank you. For everything. That's what friends are for. And Wes, welcome back to the game. You've been missed." After they hung up, Wesley sat alone in his kitchen, eyes pressed to his swollen lip, and thought about next moves. Armando had made a critical error. The assault gave Wesley legal ammunition, but more importantly, it revealed how close to the edge Armando was. Desperate, violent, stupid. Men like that made mistakes. And Wesley would be ready to capitalize on every single one. Upstairs, Tom's door opened. Wesley heard his son's quiet footsteps on the stairs, then in the hallway. Tom appeared in the kitchen doorway, his phone in his hand, his expression unreadable. "I made a call," Tom said. Wesley set down the ice pack. "What kind of call?" "To Uncle Chester. While you were on the phone. I have his number from Christmas cards." Tom's voice was very calm, very adult. I told him what happened. I told him we need help. Tom, I've got this under control. He's coming over. Uncle Chester. He said he wanted to see you, make sure you were okay. And he's bringing someone else. Someone who can help. Wesley should have been angry that his 12-year-old son was making calls to old business associates, arranging meetings, taking matters into his own hands. But instead, he felt a strange sense of pride. Tom had seen his father get hurt and immediately moved to protect him, to solve the problem. What did you tell Chester exactly? That Armando hit you. That he threatened to take our house. That we need him to stop. Tom met his father's eyes. That we need you to be strong again. Not just good. Strong. The words hung between them. Wesley thought about Sarah, about his promise to be a better man. But he also thought about Armando's hand on his collar, Patricia's face, Tom's voice saying, "Don't worry, Dad. He won't trouble you from now on." "Okay," Wesley said finally. "Okay, let's do this right." Chester arrived an hour later with a man Wesley hadn't seen in 15 years. Guy Bolton had been Wesley's lawyer during the Barber Industries days. Sharp, aggressive, completely ruthless when he needed to be. Now he was grayer, softer around the middle, but his eyes still had that predatory gleam that had terrified opposing counsel. "Wesley." Guy gripped his hand firmly, studied his face with professional assessment. "That's going to bruise nice." "Good. Photographs well in court." "Good to see you too, Guy." They settled in the living room, Tom insisting on being present despite Wesley's protests. Eventually, Wesley gave in. His son had earned the right to be part of this. "Here's where we are," Guy said, pulling out a tablet with notes. "Armando Moreno is leveraged to hell. His company is technically bankrupt. He's been using new investor money to pay old investors. Classic Ponzi structure. The Florida lawsuit is the tip of the iceberg. I've found at least 3 other legal actions pending in different states." "How is he still operating?" Wesley asked. "Jurisdictional chaos. Each case is in a different state, different court. He's been playing whack-a-mole, settling small claims to avoid bigger judgments, using LLCs and shell companies to hide assets." Guy swiped through screens. "But today's assault changes everything. With witness testimony and his threatening texts, we can file an emergency petition to freeze all his accounts, halt his business operations, and force a comprehensive audit. That destroys him. That's the point." Guy looked up, his expression neutral. "Unless you want a different outcome?" Wesley thought about Patricia, about her face when she realized her husband was a fraud. What happens to her? To Patricia? Depends on how much she knew. If she was just a victim of his con, she walks away. Probably broke, probably embarrassed, but legally clean. If she helped him knowingly. Guy shrugged. Then she has bigger problems. She didn't know. Wesley said it with more confidence than he felt. She's naive, not criminal. Then she'll be fine. Eventually. Chester leaned forward. "But Wes, there's something else. Something Tom mentioned when he called me." Wesley looked at his son, who met his gaze steadily. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That Armando won't stop until we make him stop. That legal stuff is slow, and he might hurt you again before it's over." Tom's voice was very calm. I asked if there was a faster way. Guy and Chester exchanged glances. Then Guy spoke carefully. "There are alternative approaches. Nothing illegal, but aggressive. Things that would end this immediately." "Like what?" "Like calling in all his debts at once. I represent 3 of the contractors he owes money to. If they all file liens simultaneously, all his assets freeze. His bank accounts, his properties, his vehicles, everything stops. He wouldn't be able to operate his business, pay his rent, even access his credit cards." Guy paused. "It would destroy him financially within 48 hours. Is that legal?" "Completely. Creditors have every right to collect what they're owed. The fact that it would happen all at once, coordinated, in a way that leaves him no room to maneuver. Well, that's just efficient debt collection." Wesley considered it. Quick, brutal, final. Armando would go from flashy developer to broke and desperate overnight. But it also meant Patricia would face the fallout. "There's another option," Chester said quietly. "More personal. Meaning Armando assaulted you. In your home. In front of your minor child. The police would very much like to know about that. And while you could file charges quietly, handle it through the courts." Chester's smile was sharp. "You could also make sure the right people know. Contractors he owes money to. Investors who are suing him. Local media who love a good story about a con man getting caught. You want me to destroy his reputation. I want you to tell the truth about what he did. What happens after that is just natural consequences. Wesley stood, walked to the window. Outside, rain was falling harder, turning the driveway into a river. He thought about Armando standing in that same spot, grabbing his collar, hitting him. He thought about Tom's face, white and scared. He thought about Patricia choosing to stand with a man who would hurt her father. And he thought about Sarah, about what she would want. Justice? Mercy? Protection for their son above all else? Here's what we do, Wesley said, turning back to face them. Guy, file your paperwork. Freeze his accounts, halt his operations, start the audit. Be aggressive but legal. I want him financially destroyed by next week. Done. Chester, I want you to make some quiet calls. Nothing to the media, not yet. But talk to the contractors, the investors, the banks. Let them know about the assault, about his desperation. Let them draw their own conclusions about what he might do next. That'll make them move faster on their claims. Could accelerate his collapse from months to weeks. Good. Wesley looked at Tom. And you, kiddo, you're done making calls to my old associates, understood? I appreciate what you did, but from here on out, I handle this. Tom nodded, but something in his expression said he wasn't making any promises. After Guy and Chester left, Wesley and Tom sat together in the living room, listening to the rain. Tom had positioned himself close to his father, protective, vigilant. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. When you were building your company, when you were tough and people were scared of you, were you happy? It was an unexpectedly deep question from a 12-year-old. Wesley thought about those years, the long hours, the cutthroat negotiations, the constant pressure. I was successful. I was respected, but happy. He shook his head. Not like I was happy with your mom. Not like I'm happy being your dad. But you were strong. I was hard. There's a difference. Tom was quiet, processing. What if you could be both? Strong and happy? Tough when you need to be, but still good. Wesley pulled his son close. That's the goal, buddy. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How to protect us without becoming the kind of man your mom wouldn't recognize. I think she'd understand. Tom's voice was muffled against Wesley's chest. I think she'd want you to fight back. To not let bad people win just because you're trying to be nice. Maybe Tom was right. Maybe Sarah would understand that sometimes love meant being fierce, meant protecting your family with everything you had, meant drawing lines and enforcing them. Wesley's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're going to regret this. I know where you live, where your kid goes to school. Drop the legal action or things get worse. Hey, Tom saw it too. He's threatening us. Yeah. Wesley forwarded the message to Marlene, to Guy, to Chester. But he's also giving us more evidence. Every threat, every text, every stupid move he makes just tightens the noose. What if he doesn't care about evidence? What if he just wants to hurt us? It was the question Wesley had been avoiding. Armando was desperate, violent, cornered. Men like that didn't think rationally. They lashed out. Then we'll be ready. Wesley stood, made a decision. Stay here. He went to his study, to the locked cabinet in the back corner. Inside was a handgun he'd bought years ago for home protection, barely fired except at the range. He'd almost forgotten it was there. But now, looking at Tom's scared face, feeling his own split lip throb, he was glad he had it. He checked the weapon, loaded it, set it on the desk where he could reach it quickly. Tom appeared in the doorway. Is that really necessary? I hope not. But better to have it and not need it than the other way around. Wesley saw his son's expression and softened. Hey, we're going to be okay. Armando is a bully and a coward. Bullies fold when someone finally stands up to them. And if he doesn't fold, then I'll make sure he never threatens my family again, Wesley thought. But to Tom, he just said, then we handle it. Together. That night, Wesley barely slept. He kept his phone close. The security app Chester had installed showing camera feeds from around the property. Every noise made him tense. Every car passing on the street made him check the windows. At 2 a.m., Tom crept into his room. Can't sleep. Me neither. Come here. They lay in Wesley's bed, father and son, listening to the house settle. Tom eventually drifted off, but Wesley stayed awake, watching shadows, planning for tomorrow. Monday would bring the legal assault. The asset freeze, the liens, the audit. Armando's world would start collapsing. And when it did, he'd get more dangerous, more desperate. Wesley needed to be ready. Needed to be strong, smart, always 3 steps ahead. Because Tom was right about one thing. Armando wouldn't stop until he was forced to stop. And Wesley was done being patient, done being understanding, done waiting for the right moment. The right moment was now. And Wesley Barber was done letting people hurt his family. Monday morning arrived with cold clarity. Wesley woke early, checked the security feeds, saw nothing suspicious. Tom was still asleep beside him, small and vulnerable in the gray dawn light. Wesley's phone buzzed with a message from Guy, papers filed at 6 a.m. Asset freeze approved. He'll find out when his credit cards decline later today. Banks will notify him by noon. Game over. Just like that. 20 years of cons, lies, and borrowed luxury ended with a judge's signature. Wesley should have felt triumphant. Instead, he felt tired, wary. Armando wouldn't just accept this. He'd fight, thrash, try to drag everyone down with him. By noon, Wesley's instincts proved correct. His phone exploded with calls from Patricia, 17 in 2 hours, all unanswered. Then came the voicemails, each one more frantic. Dad, something's wrong with our accounts. Armando says his credit cards aren't working. What did you do? Please call me back. He's freaking out. He says you filed some kind of legal action. Dad, please. Why are you doing this to us? To me? I'm your daughter. The last message was just crying, wordless and desperate. Tom listened to them with Wesley, his face expressionless. When the last one finished, he said quietly, "She still doesn't get it. She thinks you're the bad guy. She will. Eventually." Wesley hoped that was true. When she sees what he really is, when the lies all come out, she'll understand. And if she doesn't? Wesley didn't have an answer for that. At 2 p.m., Chester called. "You need to see this." He sent a link to a local news website. The headline made Wesley's stomach drop. Local developer faces fraud allegations, asset freeze. The article was comprehensive, details about the Florida lawsuit, interviews with unpaid contractors, speculation about a Ponzi scheme. And buried in the 3rd paragraph, Moreno recently married Patricia Barber, daughter of retired businessman Wesley Barber, whose family home became a point of contention in recent weeks. They named her, Wesley said. They named Patricia. I tried to keep her out of it, Chester said. But reporters dug. Someone talked. It happens. Now Patricia wouldn't just lose her husband. She'd be associated with his crimes, questioned about what she knew. Her name would be linked to fraud, to lies, to failure. Wesley had wanted to protect her. But in trying to save his home, save his son, he'd exposed her to something worse. Wes? You there? Yeah, I'm here. Wesley pinched the bridge of his nose, feeling a headache building. What's the fallout going to be for her? Legally? Probably nothing if she wasn't involved. Socially? Chester sighed. People are going to talk. She'll be the woman who married a con man. Some will sympathize, some will wonder what she knew. She didn't know. She's not smart enough to pull off this kind of con. You mean she's too trusting, too naive? Same difference. Wesley's doorbell rang. Through the window, he saw Patricia's BMW in the driveway. She was alone. Thank God, no Armando. Her face was blotchy from crying, her usually perfect makeup smeared. She's here, Wesley told Chester. I need to go. Be careful. She's going to be angry, hurt. Might say things she doesn't mean. Story of the last 4 months. Wesley opened the door. Patricia pushed past him into the house, spinning to face him in the foyer. How could you? Her voice was ragged, broken. How could you do this to us? Patricia. They froze our accounts. Everything. I went to get coffee this morning and my card was declined. I called the bank and they said there's some kind of legal hold, that Armando's assets are frozen pending an audit. She was shaking, her hands clenched. And then I saw the news. Everyone knows now. My friends, my colleagues, everyone. They're all asking me what I knew, if I helped him, if I was part of it. I'm sorry. Sorry? You're sorry. Patricia's laugh was hysterical. You destroyed my husband. You destroyed my life. And you're sorry. Your husband was destroying himself long before I got involved. I just sped up the inevitable. He made mistakes. He was trying to fix them. But you couldn't leave it alone. You had to be vindictive, had to get revenge because your feelings were hurt. Wesley kept his voice calm, though anger was building. He assaulted me. In my own home. In front of your brother. You probably provoked him. You've been horrible to him since we got married. Always looking down on him. Making him feel small. I've been polite. I've been patient. I've tried to be understanding while he systematically tried to steal my house. Patricia's face crumpled. It's not stealing. I'm your daughter. This house should be mine someday anyway. He was just trying to move up the timeline, to help us get a fresh start. With my money. Without my consent. While lying to you about his debts, his lawsuits, his failing business. Wesley stepped closer. Patricia, he married you for this house. For the equity. He saw you as a mark, not a wife. That's a lie. He loves me. Then where is he right now? Why isn't he here, fighting for you, explaining what happened? Why are you the one standing in my foyer, defending him, while he's probably trying to figure out how to disappear before the fraud charges stick? Patricia slapped him. Same cheek, same side. The split lip from Armando's blow reopened, blood welling. They stood frozen, Patricia's hands still raised, both of them shocked. Go, Wesley said quietly. Get out of my house. Dad, I said go. And don't come back. You made your choice. You chose him over your family. Now live with it. Patricia's face did something complicated. Rage, grief, guilt, all warring. Then she turned and ran, slamming out the front door, the BMW peeling out of the driveway with a screech of tires. Tom appeared on the stairs. She hit you again. Yeah. Wesley touched his lip, looked at the blood on his fingers. And you still defended her. Told Chester she didn't know anything. She didn't. She chose to not know. That's different. Tom came down the stairs, looked up at his father. When do you stop protecting people who hurt you? It was a question Wesley didn't have a good answer for. When did love become enabling? When did forgiveness become permission? I don't know, he admitted. But I know I'm done letting them hurt us. Whatever comes next, we handle it together. But no one gets to hit me in my own home anymore. No one gets to threaten to take you away. That line is drawn. Tom nodded, satisfied. Good. They spent the rest of the day monitoring the situation. Chester sent updates. Armando had been served with papers from multiple creditors, his business bank accounts were frozen, contractors were filing liens on his properties. His empire was collapsing in real time, and it was brutal to watch even from a distance. At 6 p.m., Wesley's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Wesley Barber. A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Yes. This is Detective Marion Donaldson with the police department. I'm calling about a domestic incident report. Someone named Armando Moreno alleged that you threatened him, that you've been harassing him and his wife. Wesley's blood went cold. That's not true. He showed us texts, emails. He's claiming you're trying to extort him, that you're making false allegations to cover up your own financial crimes. The bastard was trying to flip the script, trying to make Wesley the villain. Detective, I have 3 witnesses to Mr. Moreno assaulting me in my home. I have threatening texts from him. I have documented evidence of his attempts to coerce me into selling my property. If he's making counter-allegations, he's lying. We'd like you to come in for questioning. Tomorrow morning. Just to get your side of things. I'll have my lawyer present. That's your right. 9 a.m. I'll be there. After he hung up, Wesley immediately called Guy Bolton. Armando's trying to get me arrested. He filed a police report claiming I'm the one harassing him. Guy swore. He's desperate. Trying to create leverage, muddy the waters. Don't worry. With Marlene's witness statement and the documented threats, this won't go anywhere. But it's smart. I'll admit, it's smart. If he can make you look like the aggressor, it undermines everything else. So what do? You go in tomorrow with me. You tell the truth. You show them the evidence. And then we file our own charges, assault, harassment, attempted extortion. We hit back twice as hard. Guy paused. But Wes? This means he's cornered. Really cornered. Men like that, they don't think straight. Watch your back. That night, Wesley installed extra locks on all the doors, triple-checked the security system, kept his gun close. Tom seemed to sense the danger, staying near his father, both of them jumping at every noise. At 11 p.m., Wesley's phone buzzed with a text from Armando. Tomorrow you're going to tell the police you lied. You're going to drop all the legal actions. Or I'm coming for your son. Wesley showed it to Tom, who read it without expression. He threatened me directly now, Tom said. That's good, right? More evidence. Yeah. Wesley forwarded the text to Guy, to Marlene, to Detective Donaldson. But it also means he's past caring about consequences. He's all in now. Are you scared? Wesley looked at his 12-year-old son, at the trust and confidence in his eyes. No. Are you? No. I believe in you. Those simple words, that absolute faith, steadied something in Wesley's chest. He'd spent 12 years being a good father, patient and kind. But now his son needed him to be more than good. He needed him to be strong, protective, unmovable. And Wesley would be. Whatever it took. Get some sleep, Wesley said. Tomorrow we go to the police, we tell the truth, and we let justice handle Armando Moreno. But as Tom went upstairs and Wesley sat alone in the darkness, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. That Armando had one more move to make. And when he did, Wesley would be ready. Tuesday morning broke cold and clear. Wesley and Tom drove to the police station with Guy Bolton, Tom insisting on coming despite Wesley's protests. At 12, he was old enough to give a witness statement, and his testimony would be crucial. Detective Donaldson met them in an interview room, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to Wesley's account, reviewed the texts, the witness statements from Marlene and Tom. Her expression gave nothing away. Mr. Moreno tells a very different story, she said finally. He claims you've been harassing him and his wife for months, trying to break up their marriage. He says you're financially controlling your daughter, that you refuse to give her what's rightfully hers. Patricia isn't entitled to my house while I'm still living in it. He also claims you attacked him last Friday, that you grabbed him when he tried to leave, that he only pushed you away in self-defense. Tom spoke up before Wesley could respond. That's a lie. I saw everything. Armando grabbed my dad's collar and slapped him. My dad never touched him first. Ms. Irvin saw it too. Detective Donaldson studied Tom with interest. You're very articulate for 12. I know what I saw. She turned back to Wesley. Here's what bothers me. Mr. Moreno files his report Sunday night. By Monday morning, all his assets are frozen. He's being sued by multiple creditors, and his name is all over the news. That's pretty fast retaliation. That's consequence, Guy interjected. My client didn't file those lawsuits. The contractors and investors did, independently, after learning about Mr. Moreno's assault and threats. The timing is coincidental. Is it? Detective Donaldson's smile was thin. Because from where I sit, it looks like a coordinated effort to destroy Mr. Moreno financially in response to a physical altercation. Wesley kept his voice steady. Detective, I didn't make Armando Moreno defraud investors. I didn't make him not pay his contractors. I didn't make him run a failing business on borrowed money. All I did was refuse to be his next victim and call on some powerful friends to crush him. I called in lawyers to protect my rights. There's a difference. They went back and forth for an hour, Detective Donaldson probing for weaknesses, trying to find evidence of coordination, of conspiracy. But Guy had prepared Wesley well, and the truth was on their side. Eventually, she leaned back, frustrated. Okay, here's what I think happened. Mr. Moreno is a con man who married your daughter thinking he could pressure you into giving him money. When that didn't work, he got physical. You, being who you are, responded with overwhelming legal force. Both of you are wrong. Both of you escalated. But only one of you committed assault. She looked at Wesley. You want to press charges? Yes. Then I'll issue a warrant for his arrest. Assault and battery, criminal threats. He'll probably make bail, but it'll be on his record. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. Men like Moreno, they don't go down easy. They burn everything on the way out. She stood. Watch your back, Mr. Barber. And keep that boy safe. They left the station with a strange sense of anticlimax. Wesley had expected more drama, more difficulty. Instead, it had been almost routine. File charges, provide evidence, let the system work. That was easier than I thought, Tom said as they drove home. Too easy, Guy muttered. Something's off. Moreno filed that report knowing it wouldn't hold up. So why do it? To buy time. Wesley suggested. To make me focus on defending myself instead of attacking him? Maybe. Or, Guy trailed off, his expression troubled. Or what? Or he's already gone. Already running. And the report was just a distraction while he grabbed whatever he could and disappeared. Wesley's phone rang before he could respond. Chester, his voice tight. Wes, we've got a problem. Moreno's condo is empty. Cleaned out. The landlord says they left in the middle of the night with suitcases. And Patricia? No sign of her. Her car's still there, but she's gone. Wesley felt ice in his veins. He took her. We don't know that. He's desperate, broke, about to be arrested. He needs leverage. So he took my daughter. Wesley's mind was racing, calculating. Where would he go? What's his play? If he's smart, he's heading for an airport, getting out of the country before the warrant is issued. He's not smart. He's panicking. And he knows the one thing I care about more than the house. Wesley's breath caught. Tom. He knows where Tom goes to school. Guy was already on his phone, calling the school now, having them locked down until we get there. But something in Wesley's gut said they were thinking about this wrong. Armando wasn't going after Tom. He'd already made his move, and they'd missed it because they were focused on police reports and legal proceedings. He has Patricia, Wesley said slowly, pieces clicking together. He's going to use her as a bargaining chip. He'll offer to let her go if I drop the charges, if I pay him off, if I give him what he wants. That's kidnapping. That adds years to his sentence. He doesn't care about sentences anymore. He cares about survival. Wesley's phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but he knew who it was. I have your daughter. You want to see her again, you meet me. Alone. Today at 4 p.m. I'll send the address. No police, no lawyers, or she gets hurt. Guy and Chester read the message over Wesley's shoulder. We call the police right now, Guy said. This is kidnapping. This is way beyond civil disputes. But Wesley was thinking. Armando expected him to panic, to involve authorities, to create chaos that he could exploit. Or he expected Wesley to show up alone, naive and vulnerable, ready to be victimized again. Armando didn't understand who he was dealing with. Didn't understand that the gentle father he'd been slapping around wasn't the real Wesley Barber. That was just the version Wesley had chosen to show. No police, Wesley said quietly. Wes. I said no police. Not yet. Wesley met Chester's eyes. You said you had a guy watching Armando. Is he still on him? Yeah, but we lost visual when they cleared out of the condo. He's trying to reacquire. Tell him to keep looking. And when he finds them, I want to know immediately. But he doesn't engage. He just watches and reports. Guy was shaking his head. You can't seriously be thinking about going to this meeting. I'm going. But not the way Armando expects. Wesley pulled out his phone, started making calls. First to Vernon Paul, his old security contractor who'd protected Barber Industries job sites. Then to Curtis Sharp, who'd been his personal security during hostile takeover attempts. Men he hadn't spoken to in years, but who answered immediately, who remembered what it was like to work for Wesley Barber. What are you doing? Tom asked quietly. Wesley looked at his son. I'm being smart. Armando thinks I'm just a retired dad, someone he can push around and threaten. He's about to find out he's wrong. By 3 p.m., Wesley had assembled a small team. Vernon and Curtis, both ex-military, both experienced in protection and surveillance. Marlene Irvin, because having a witness would be crucial. And Chester, because Wesley trusted him to think 3 steps ahead. Tom wanted to come, but Wesley shut that down hard. Absolutely not. You stay here with Guy? You don't leave this house. You don't open the door for anyone. You understand. I want to help. You help by staying safe. That's what I need from you right now. Wesley pulled his son into a fierce hug. I'm going to get your sister back. I promise. At 3:45, Wesley's phone buzzed with an address. An abandoned construction site on the outskirts of town, one of Armando's failed projects, fittingly. Vernon and Curtis would approach from different angles, staying hidden. Marlene would wait in a car nearby with police on speed dial. Chester would monitor from a van with surveillance equipment. Wesley would go in alone, as instructed. But he wouldn't be unprepared. He checked his gun one more time, made sure his phone was recording, and headed for his truck. The old Wesley Barber, the one who'd built an empire through careful planning and strategic thinking, was fully awake now. And Armando Moreno was about to learn what happened when you threatened a man's children. The construction site was exactly what Wesley expected. Half-finished buildings, rusted equipment, weeds growing through cracked concrete. A monument to Armando's failed ambitions and borrowed money. The sun was setting, casting long shadows through the skeletal structures. Wesley parked where Armando had instructed, got out slowly, hands visible. He spotted Armando's Porsche. Of course he'd kept the leased car even while everything else crumbled, parked near a half-built office building. Armando emerged from behind a pillar, Patricia gripped tightly by his arm. She looked terrified, her eyes red from crying, a bruise blooming on her cheek. Wesley felt rage surge through him, hot and primal, but forced it down. Emotion was a weakness. He needed to be cold, calculating, strategic. Let her go, Wesley called out, his voice carrying across the empty site. Not until we have a deal. Armando's voice was high, frantic. You're going to drop all the charges. You're going to call off your lawyers, tell the contractors to back off. And you're going to give me $500,000. Cash. Tonight. Wesley almost laughed. I'm not giving you anything. Then your daughter gets hurt. Armando shook Patricia roughly. She whimpered. Dad, please, Patricia sobbed. Just give him what he wants. Please. Wesley took a slow step forward, hands still visible. Patricia, has he hurt you? He pushed me. Slapped me when I tried to leave. Her voice broke. I didn't know, Dad. I didn't know about any of it. The lawsuits, the debts, the lies. He told me it was all your fault, that you were lying about him. But then I saw the papers, the evidence, and I realized. She dissolved into tears. Shut up. Armando yanked her back. She doesn't get to play victim now. She loved the money, the lifestyle, the expensive dinners and shopping. She never asked where it came from. She's as guilty as I am. She's not, Wesley said quietly. She's naive and she made bad choices, but she's not a criminal. You are. I'm a businessman. I made investments that didn't pay off. That's not a crime. Fraud is. Assault is. Kidnapping definitely is. Wesley took another step. Let her go, Armando. This is over. The police know you have her. They're probably on their way right now. If you let her go, if you surrender peacefully, maybe you get bail, maybe you negotiate a plea. But if you hurt her, if you do anything stupid, you spend the rest of your life in prison. I'm not going to prison. Armando's voice cracked. I just need time. Time to fix things, to make things right. The $500,000, it's nothing to you. You're rich, you can spare it. I'm comfortable. I'm not rich. And I wouldn't give you $1 if I was. Armando pulled out a gun, small, cheap, probably bought illegally. The sight of it made Wesley's blood run cold, but he kept his expression neutral. Vernon and Curtis would have seen it too, would be moving into position. I'll kill her. Armando pressed the gun to Patricia's temple. She screamed. I swear to God, I'll kill her right now. Give me the money. No. Wesley's voice was steel. Because you won't kill her. You need her as leverage. The second she's dead, you lose any chance of getting out of this. So either you let her go and run, in which case I'll hunt you down, but at least my daughter is safe, or you hurt her and my friends over there. Wesley gestured casually to where Vernon and Curtis were positioned, their presence now obvious. They put you down like a rabid dog. Armando's eyes went wide, darting between the two armed men who'd appeared from the shadows. His gun hand started shaking. You said come alone. I lied. Same way you've been lying to everyone for years. Wesley took another step forward. It's over, Armando. You lost. The question now is whether you walk away from this with any shred of dignity, or whether you go down as the pathetic con man who couldn't even run a scam right. For a moment, Wesley thought Armando might actually pull the trigger. His finger was on the trigger, his face twisted with rage and desperation. Patricia was sobbing, her eyes squeezed shut, waiting for the bullet. Then Armando made his final mistake. He shoved Patricia away, toward Wesley, and raised the gun to aim at Wesley instead. You ruined everything. You couldn't just help. You had to be selfish, had to hold on to your precious house, had to destroy me. Wesley moved faster than a 52-year-old man should be able to move. He ducked low, came up inside Armando's guard, and drove his fist into Armando's solar plexus. The gun went off. Wesley felt the bullet whip past his ear, but then Vernon and Curtis were there, tackling Armando, disarming him, pinning him to the concrete. Patricia ran to Wesley, collapsed against him, shaking and sobbing. Wesley held her with one arm, while his other hand checked her for injuries. The bruise on her face, some scrapes on her arms, but nothing critical. I'm sorry, she kept saying between sobs. I'm so sorry, Dad. You were right. About everything. He was using me. He was lying. He never loved me. I'm so sorry. Shoo. It's okay. You're safe now. Wesley pressed his face to her hair, feeling the terror start to drain away. She was alive. Tom was safe at home. They'd survived. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marlene had called the police the moment the gun came out. Within minutes, the site was swarming with officers, an ambulance for Patricia, a paddy wagon for Armando. Detective Donaldson arrived with the cavalry, took one look at the scene, and shook her head. I told you this wasn't over. You did. Wesley was sitting on the bumper of the ambulance, watching paramedics check Patricia. But it is now. He fired a weapon at you. That's attempted murder on top of everything else. He's going away for a long time. She studied Wesley with a new respect. You handled this pretty well. For a retired businessman. I had good help. After the police finished their statements, after Patricia was cleared medically and Armando was hauled away in cuffs, Chester drove Wesley and Patricia home. She sat in the back seat, wrapped in a blanket, silent now, staring at nothing. Tom was waiting on the porch when they pulled up, guy beside him. He ran to Wesley, hugged him hard. You did it. You got her back. We got her back. Wesley looked at Patricia, who was climbing slowly out of the car, fragile and broken. Tom, your sister needs you. Can you be there for her? Even after everything. Tom looked at Patricia for a long moment. Then, quietly, only if she's sorry. Really sorry. Not just because she got caught. Patricia heard him, met his eyes. I am sorry. I chose wrong. I believed him over Dad, over you. I let him make me mean and greedy. And I'm sorry. Tom studied her, weighing her words. Then he nodded. Okay, then I forgive you. The simple generosity of it, the instant forgiveness, made Wesley's eyes burn. His son was 12 and already understood something many adults never learned. That family meant showing up, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. They went inside together, all of them, and it felt like breathing for the first time in months. The house that had been a battlefield was just a home again. The weeks that followed brought a strange normalcy. Armando was charged with fraud, assault, kidnapping, and attempted murder. He tried to make bail, but the judge deemed him a flight risk. Patricia filed for divorce immediately, the proceedings mercifully quick since they'd only been married 4 months and had no shared assets. Armando had nothing to split anyway. Patricia moved back home temporarily, sleeping in her old room, slowly rebuilding her relationship with her father and brother. It wasn't easy. There were hard conversations, tears, moments of anger and hurt on all sides. But there was also healing. One evening 2 weeks later, Wesley and Tom were in the study when Patricia knocked tentatively on the doorframe. Can we talk? Wesley gestured to the couch. Patricia sat, twisted her hands in her lap. I need to tell you something. About that day, when Armando hit you the first time. Tom tensed. You laughed. No. I smiled. For just a second. And that's almost worse. Patricia's voice was thick with shame. I smiled because part of me was glad he was putting you in your place. He'd spent weeks telling me you were too controlling, that you didn't respect me as an adult, that you were keeping me from my inheritance. And when he grabbed you, when you just stood there and took it, I thought. She swallowed hard. I thought it proved he was right, that you were weak, that I'd chosen someone stronger. Wesley felt the words like physical blows, but he kept his expression neutral. But then he hit you, and I watched you taste blood, watched your face, and I saw. Patricia's voice broke. I saw how much pain I'd caused you. Not the physical pain from the hit. The pain of your daughter betraying you. And I felt sick. I screamed at him to stop. And from that moment, I started seeing everything clearly. How he'd manipulated me, isolated me from you, turned me against my own family. Why didn't you leave then? Tom asked. Because I was scared. Scared I'd made a huge mistake. Scared everyone would know I'd been fooled. Scared of being alone. Patricia looked at Wesley. But mostly scared that you'd never forgive me. That I destroyed our relationship forever. Wesley moved to sit beside his daughter, pulled her into a hug. I forgave you the moment you needed forgiving. You're my daughter. That doesn't change. Patricia sobbed against his chest, years of tension and fear finally releasing. Tom joined them after a moment. The three of them holding each other in the study where Sarah's presence still lingered. When Patricia finally pulled back, her face blotchy but lighter somehow, she said, I want to make it right. I want to pay back the money you spent on the wedding, on the lawyers. I got a job, just retail for now, but it's something. And I'm going to therapy, real therapy, to figure out why I was so susceptible to someone like Armando. You don't have to pay me back. I want to. I need to. For me. She looked at Tom. And I want to be your sister again. If you'll let me. Tom nodded. You are my sister. You were just confused for a while. It was going to take time. Patricia would need to rebuild trust, prove her commitment to change. But Wesley could see his daughter again. Not the cold stranger who'd chosen Armando, but the smart, funny, occasionally selfish, but ultimately good person Sarah had raised. 3 months later, Armando Moreno pleaded guilty to multiple charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. 15 years, eligible for parole in 10. The Florida investors got a judgment against him, though they'd never collect. He had nothing left to take. Patricia was there for the sentencing, sitting between Wesley and Tom. When the judge read the sentence, she didn't smile or celebrate. She just squeezed Wesley's hand. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself." The house went back to being a home. Patricia moved out after a few months, got her own apartment, started rebuilding her life. She visited every Sunday for dinner, slowly repairing the damage she'd done. Tom forgave her more easily than Wesley expected, but then Tom had always been wise beyond his years. One evening in early spring, Wesley stood in his backyard, looking at the house he and Sarah had built. Tom was doing homework at the kitchen table. Patricia was coming for dinner. His life was quiet, simple, good. Chester called, his usual greeting loud and cheerful. "There's my favorite hermit. How's retirement treating you? Can't complain. You? Bored? Listen, I've got a development project downtown. Needs someone with vision, someone who understands structural integrity and aesthetics. Someone who used to be the best in the business." Chester paused. "I'm not asking you to come back full time. Just consult. Give me your thoughts. Remember what it felt like to build something." Wesley thought about it. For 12 years, he'd been just a dad, and that had been enough. But maybe Tom had been right. Maybe you could be strong and happy. Maybe you could build things and still be present for your family. "Send me the plans," Wesley said. "I'll take a look." "That's my guy? Welcome back to the world, Wes." After they hung up, Tom appeared in the doorway. "You're going to help Uncle Chester?" "Maybe. Would that bother you?" "No." Tom came to stand beside his father, looking at the house. "You were different these last few months. After everything with Armando. Stronger. More like how Uncle Chester describes you from before. Is that good or bad?" "Good. You were always a great dad. But now you're a great dad who doesn't let people push him around." Tom smiled. Mom would have liked that version. Wesley pulled his son close, thinking about Sarah, about promises and evolution, about being the man your family needed at any given moment. "You know what she used to tell me?" Wesley said. "When we were building the company, when I was working crazy hours, stressed about everything, she'd say, 'Be ruthless in business, be gentle at home, but never let anyone mistake gentleness for weakness.' Smart woman. The smartest." Wesley looked down at his son, at those old, wise eyes. "You saved us, you know. When you called Chester that day, when you made me remember I could fight back. You were 12 years old, and you knew exactly what to do. I just knew you needed help. That we couldn't do it alone. That's wisdom most adults never learn." They stood together in the fading light, father and son, in the home they'd protected, the family they'd preserved. And Wesley thought, this is enough. This moment, this peace, this second chance at happiness. He'd been gentle for 12 years, and it had been good. Then he'd been forced to be strong, and that had been necessary. Now, maybe, he could be both. Gentle with his children, fierce with his enemies. Present at home, respected in the world. Wesley Barber had spent 12 years sleeping. But he was awake now, and he wasn't going back. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.